it's a very difficult case to get your head around if what the prosecution alleges is true. And that is, no matter that enhanced degree of trust between a mother and a daughter, the maternal bond, this shakes that belief, that kind of that primordial urge to the core. And so that is a monstrous, monstrous problem. And the allegation, frankly, is monstrous. I think part of the bigger problem is for the defense and frankly for the prosecution is how do they tie this together? When I first heard about this, I thought that this was a custody dispute gone awry, which you often see in these kinds of situations. But obviously this did go awry, and I don't want to prejudge it. I don't know more about the facts. I think it is very strange, so to speak, that there was no arrest made once the prosecution knew that she had traveled basically to the border of Utah and back. And I suppose they were waiting for the body, but I've seen many cases in California in the last 10 years with homicides being prosecuted with no body.
Right. Great point. The sheriff in Santa Barbara County called this cold-blooded, criminally sophisticated premeditation and heartlessness that went into planning, and ruthlessness went into committing the crime. This is going to be a tough one to defend.
Well, I think if on the facts, if they've got the facts to tie this together, yes, it's a very tough case to defend, and there will probably be some kind of a mental health defense element to it. However, I haven't seen enough of the evidence, and I kind of counsel people always, let's not prejudge until we see how the evidence unfolds. I just don't know. I don't know. I can think of various other scenarios, maybe because the one that's alleged by the prosecution is so horrible, I don't want to even accept that it's possible. So I understand that, but I would just counsel, let's wait and see what the evidence looks like.
Do you think the insanity plea would be the way to go in this case?
Well, you know, one of the things you have to do as a defense lawyer when you get a case like this is you have to first assess your client's mental stability. I mean, there are all kinds of red flags, if you will, about this client's mental health or potential mental health. That's number one. But number two, at the same time, you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. You need to analyze what the police and prosecution have developed. Where are their facts? How did they tie this woman to the crime itself, not just the abduction or purported abduction, which may not even be an abduction if there's no custody order that was violated. Transportation, yes. But the problem is who caused her death, when was her death, and what was the means. And so that's what it's going to come down to first. Before they ever get to a mental health determination, a lawyer is going to have to evaluate the facts of whether or not the prosecution can actually make their case.
Mark, let's turn now to someone who's already had their day in court. Sean Diddy Combs is now asking for an appeals court for immediate release, saying that the judge defied the jury's verdict during sentencing. As someone who represented Combs before, you think he'll be successful?
I will tell you something. Part of one of the lessons that trial brought to me was just how effective his appellate lawyer, Alexandra Shapiro, is. And she's the one who authored this brief. I've known Alexandra for a while, and I will tell you, she's one of the more impressive legal minds that I've encountered in 43 years of practice. Having said that, I think this brief reads compellingly. I think they've already somewhat expedited it or granted her request for an expedited appeal. Number one, that's a good sign. Number two, she's asked for immediate release. I think there's a potential there. Remember, when he was convicted of these two Mann Act violations, if you took a look at this, he actually rolled the dice. He won against the counts that carried a mandatory life sentence and would have basically forfeited his entire fortune. So he rolled the dice and won, and then he was enhanced in his sentence by the very conduct he was acquitted of. I think that's fundamentally unfair. In fact, if you want to talk about fairness, I think the prosecution should be penalized for overcharging him in the first place, and he should have been immediately released. That's just me. I have great affection, and I think that's the just result.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.